Two in a row for the Marlins. They have sealed a series win. Finally, I told you, May baseball, baby. Flush the rest. The Marlins are back. Starting pitching, looking flames. Roddery Munoz absolutely showing out again. 2 starts for Roddery, 2 stunning starts, and a series victory for the Marlins. Let's not forget as well, another impact guy from AAA. Dane Myers with another big knock and an Anthony Maldonado save. Boy, oh boy, the jumbo shrimp are showing out. Love to see it. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, of course, at Miami Marlins_UK. If you're listening to the pod, firstly, greetings, top of the morning to you. This is your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Make sure you hit subscribe as well. Leave a review also. Reminder, there is also a YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It's also called Locked On Marlins. Subscribe, watch, enjoy, and make sure you comment as well on these episodes. Get yourself in there. Let me know what you're thinking, not just on the Marlins, but on my delivery and my wild takes. Guys, it's Thursday's episode, and we are celebrating another Marlins win. May has started perfectly, seemingly, for the Marlins. So we've got tons to get into here. This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Monopoly Go, and I admit it, I have a competitive side. And it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now on the App Store or Google Play. So, where do we start? This game was started with class. Roddery Munoz, baby. I mentioned it after his first start there was a lot of, at that point, a lot of discourse around that because it was on the back of recently Max Meyer being optioned. Everyone had lost their mind around that topic area, kind of for obvious reasons, because, Max should have remained in the rotation, but wasn't. Nevertheless, Munoz came up and did a stunning job the first time out. We then, and I called it out on Twitter to say, I actually think the Munoz looked a better current pitcher than Max Meyer. And, was I being sarcastic? Was it hyperbole? No. I actually, when you watch the starts and you watch the two guys, their repertoire, etc., I believe at this point that Roddery Munoz looks a more rounded starter, which is ultra encouraging. This isn't a knock on Max Meyer. I'm not trying to knock Max at all. Please take this as I am pleasantly and delighted in my surprise around the ability that Roddery Munoz has showed thus far. And I get it. It's facing the Rockies. So, we have to take it with a pinch of salt. Max Meyer's stunning outing, the last one before he was optioned, was against the Atlanta Braves. And so, everything, it's, apples with pears, I think, when you're going to compare the Braves and the Rockies lineups. But if we look at what Roddery Munoz did yesterday, 6 innings. So that's a big tick because barely any Marlins starter has been able to go 6 in any start this year. 6 innings, just 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 7 Ks for Roddery Munoz. Really impressive stuff for him. He ends up going 6 in 82 pitches. So really impressive stuff. There's going to be some decisions to be made. And I think that's the interesting bit that's on the horizon here, where, Braxton Garrett has a start yesterday, 5 innings, gave up a hit. I think that was it. Maybe a couple of walks, whatever it might be. But Brax is looking ready. We've had a few false dawns with Brax, the last few months. He's worked his way back, had a setback, worked his way back, etc. So time will tell. But right now you're looking at things and thinking Braxton Garrett looks pretty close to being ready to go and getting, coming off the IL. So that makes a really interesting thing and a really interesting decision for Skip Schumacher. Spoke about yesterday on yesterday's episode around Sixto Sanchez. When you consider what Sixto's putting up versus what Roddery Munoz is putting up at this point, it's night and day at this point. Like, in terms of a small sample size, and I get it, but the easy way out for the Marlins at this point is to, again, when Brax is ready, option Roddery Munoz back down to AAA because that's the roster flexibility. The tougher way out is to go in maybe a slightly different direction. And it could be that you move Sixto back to the pen. But it feels like they're building him up back as a starter. He doesn't have any options. So they're kind of handcuffed on that topic area. So I'm really intrigued to see the way they go. Like Max Meyer, it would be very 2024 Marlins if Brax is back. Don't forget, they're on the same rest days at this point as, Roddery and Brax. So that could play into things here. But if we consider Max had a career day and was then optioned, Roddery Munoz, a career day, and then could be optioned. I get it. That's 2024 Marlins baseball. And maybe Sixto's left out there to continue doing his thing. I think it's really interesting. Just a reminder on Roddery Munoz, by the way. I think, listen, Peter Bendix has had plenty of slander from Marlins fans, from me. I think he's taken plenty of shots early doors, primarily because the Marlins started the year so badly, like historically bad. And so, listen, Bendix is responsible for the roster and the performance has been poor. What we must say is there's a few glimmers of Bendix ball coming through. Roddery Munoz being one of them. Reminder, he was acquired for cash considerations from the Pirates. In the 2 starts we've seen from Roddery Munoz, you have to look at that and think, boy, oh boy, that looks like an absolute steal. The Bravos moved on from him. The Pirates have moved on from him. I feel like both of them at this point could really benefit from a guy like Roddery Munoz. So, it's funny the way these things shake out. But when we think of the Rays, we think of the way they operate. It's always these arms that others see no value in, seemingly, or less value than other guys on their roster. And they're scooped up, turned into gems, used, and then off, usually traded. Roddery Munoz looks like one of those guys. Like, again, going back to it, the stuff, the way he pitches pitches a game, his repertoire. At this point, it looks more impressive than Max Meyer. And we were all blown away by what Max Meyer did, particularly against the Bravos. So that just shows what level we're talking about here with Munoz. Very interested to see what the future holds for him, how the Marlins handle it. The reality is, there's, as we've seen all year, and I think this is the interesting bit, we've seen all year with the Fish that it isn't just about microphone making a funny noise. It isn't just about who's the best player on the team, who's the best roster. It's about the constraints that the roster presents based on injuries, based on form, based on options, etc. All of this stuff. Like, we've seen it time and time again. Guys that have to be on the roster have to be on there. The Marlins at this point seem unwilling to move on, maybe from deadwood guys that have no options. Maybe because they believe in them. Maybe it's too early to evaluate on some of them. I get it. But we're going to wait and see. I think Sixto is absolutely in the spotlight at this point, with Braxton coming back. And particularly Jesus Luzardo will hopefully come back as well soon. I'm really interested to see the way they go with Sixto. It's been underwhelming both in the pen as a starter. He doesn't look like a big league arm at this point in many ways. He needs time. To be honest with you, if there's ever a guy that needs time, it's Sixto. And the time should be spent in the minor leagues with Sixto, really. No one's going to claim him because he's not a big league arm at this point. I feel like probably what's best for Sixto is to be down in the minor leagues, working his way back. The Marlins are stuck because they have to keep him if they want. They're worried that he might be claimed. I don't know. Do the Marlins believe that Sixto Sanchez has a future and a way to get back to where he was? Do they believe that? If they do believe that, then everything they're doing makes total sense. Because if you believe that Sixto will return to the level that he was at pre-injury, then this makes total sense. I think that's the problem at this point. Me, as an armchair fan, across the pond, thousands of miles away, not even watching games in person, I just get the sense that that won't be the case. But the actions the Marlins are making are telling me that they believe, with Sixto Sanchez, they believe there's an above-average arm in there in some sort of way, and it's just about working it back. Let me know what you think. I want to talk about Tanner Scott. I want to talk about Anthony Maldonado, the way the game played out. And we also need to talk about Dane Myers again, coming through in a big spot. Dane Myers. Before we do that, let's let you know firstly about our good friends over at FanDuel. Yes, sir. And guys, come on. I mean, tough on the basketball front at the moment. But right now, well, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL. And FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This episode is also brought to you by our very good friends over at Monopoly Go. And all right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You've already talked about that. But there is just so much good stuff in this game. And in Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like Digging for Treasure or Robot Pachinko Machine. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent. Frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now, free on Google Play or App Store. Game on. All right, guys, welcome back to Locked On Marlins, Thursday, the 2nd of May. We're hitting this one early. I'm up and at it early. Again, I've got a spring in my step. The Marlins have won. And they've won in very Marlins fashion, I would say. Like, this is the kind of team, and these are the kind of wins that are the Marlins. They're playing Marlins baseball, finally. It's taken a month and a bit, but finally the Marlins are delivering. And that Marlins team is clean baseball, led by its starting pitching. Relievers come through at the end, and a couple of big hits in a couple of big spots. That's the Marlins. The offense will not overpower you. It's led by the pitching, play solid defense, and come through at the back end. We're finally seeing it. It's maybe a touch too late, but the season's not over. They could go on a historic run. We've seen a historically bad start. What's to say the Marlins can't go on a historically good run? Who knows? I mean, they're going for the sweep today against the Rockies in a UK friendly. So there is that, of course. Nevertheless, it's great to see. Let's talk about the bullpen situation because obviously Roddery Munoz with a stunning 6 innings setting the Marlins up nicely. Close game, obviously, at this point. Brian Hoeing then came in and, just doing Brian Hoeing things because, I mean, he's been an absolute stalwart in the pen. He's probably been the MVP in the pen if you kind of take the whole body of work all year long with Brian Hoeing. He ends up going an inning and 2/3 again yesterday, just gave up 1 hit. His ERA currently sits at 1.83, and he's kind of flexed around in terms of his roles, Hoeing, which is encouraging and impressive in itself. And for me, I must say, Brian Hoeing, what a story, what a success story, I'd say, for the Marlins, where he's kind of, you think back a couple of years ago, this dude was just like not on anyone's, he was just no one's mind. No one was thinking about Brian Hoeing. And I must say, he's really he's improved last year as well. He really, he did what was needed. He flexed and started games multiple times. He had some really encouraging starts. He kind of tailed off at the back end of the year, if I remember correctly, but that's probably down to overuse, by the way. But he started this year really strong and continues to, impress, I would say. He's a really big part of this pen. And you need guys like Hoeing, particularly when you've got, a lot of fluidity in the rotation where guys maybe unexpected to go 6, can't go 6, maybe are only going to go 4, maybe 3. It kind of depends. Bit of mix and match, few bullpen games. Hoeing's exactly who you need. Let's talk about how the game ended, though, and how things shook out. So Tanner Scott comes in, and there was, seemingly a big at-bat brewing there, and Skip Schumacher made the decision to bring Hoeing in to face Ryan McMahon. It's one of them where it's a one-run game. You need to bring in your stud. Actually, Skip Schumacher, he uses the word horse. He describes Tanner Scott as a horse. And what he doesn't want to do is to leave his horse in the stable, bring in someone else in the big spot against the biggest guy and the biggest threat to try and get the biggest outs. I'm totally with Skip Schumacher on that one. Like, you have to manage the game that's in front of you and not be limited to the inning number, etc. Like, that was very Don Mattingly, I would say. And do you remember all those years of Don Mattingly where everyone would lose their minds and it'd be so rigid? Everything would be rigid in the pen. This guy in the 7th, this guy in the 8th, this guy in the 9th. I like it that Skip Schumacher is managing the game in a way where he understands the risk, the danger that certain parts of the order will pose, etc. And he's not afraid to get Tanner Scott out there in the 8th inning. So, because you end up in a situation where there's a walk thrown in there, there's guys on base, like it ends up being maybe, not the cleanest inning, the super fast inning. And then the Marlins offense lays on a couple of runs. We're going to talk about, again, the offense and the impact that Dane Myers is making shortly. But let's kind of fast forward to that. What we learn is the initial approach was Tanner Scott's going out there. It's likely just going to be to finish this inning, and then we'll think about the 9th maybe later. We'll see how it goes. Tanner Scott naturally very unhappy that he didn't get the save opportunity. He wants them. I love that. I love to hear that. And Skip spoke about it in the post-game presser. I love that Tanner Scott is demanding saves from Skip Schumacher. His desire is there. And also Skip spoke about it, that the velo from the horse, Tanner Scott, is increasing, improving. Like, it feels like Tanner Scott's building back up to the levels that maybe he was in 2024. Reminder, Tanner Scott on an expiring deal. And so whilst, the Marlins may build him up, other clubs may benefit from Tanner Scott later in the year, but the Marlins should benefit in the long run, considering the package that may be returned for that one. Anyway, enough on that. Tanner Scott, he wanted the 9th. Initially, it seems that him and Skip spoke about it, and Skip was convinced by Tanner Scott to let him go back out there for the 9th inning. Was the original plan after the 8th inning finished. The Marlins then tack on a few. He sat down a while. Skip then makes the decision to reverse his decision and then go to Anthony Maldonado instead for his first save opportunity. I think it sounds like Tanner Scott lost his mind on that and was not happy with the decision. But what I like about Skip Schumacher is, A, the way he understood the game situation, made the decision to bring Tanner Scott in that big spot. Effectively, the game's on the line at that point. You bring in your horse. I get it. You then realize the game situation in that a couple more runs are tacked on. Yes, there's still a save opportunity, but the risk attributed is lower. Tanner Scott, let's keep him healthy. The Marlins need to keep Tanner Scott healthy for various reasons. And Skip Schumacher probably did the right thing. Tanner Scott won't like it. But Skip, in terms of load management, did the right thing. And again, the Marlins absolutely need to keep Tanner Scott healthy right up to the deadline. After that, it'll be someone else's problem. But that's what they need. They can't afford Tanner Scott to go down at all. because frankly, he's one of the most obvious, easy opportunities in terms of rebuild the farm, eye to the future and stuff. He's starting to look like himself. And there's a lot of value in that. We saw what the Marlins paid up last year to go and get David Robertson. And frankly, David Robertson, he's like 4 tiers down versus Tanner Scott in terms of ceiling anyway. I think obviously Robertson was having a nice year for the Mets last year. Has had a long career. But I would say with Tanner Scott, it's probably just because we're Marlins fans and we love Tanner Scott. But man, oh man, you look at the return that Robertson was able to garner for the Mets. Again, that's why it's so important that Tanner Scott has no injury issues towards the deadline. So anyway, Anthony Maldonado ends up coming in and making the save, or having the save opportunity, and ends up going and throwing effectively a full clean inning, which was, and including a K. Maldonado, he's another guy, by the way, where there's multiple of these guys littered through the Marlins organization at this point who had great springs, deserved a spot on the roster because of other wider decisions and other situations going on. They didn't make the roster to start the year. But all these guys are sat there queued up, ready to rock and roll. Dane Myers, we've just seen recently. Max Meyer, we know about. Anthony Maldonado, I would say, was absolutely in that bucket where, for me, I expected him to make the bullpen. But because there's option years and there's other guys that don't and other situations, he didn't get his shot immediately. Anthony Maldonado now has come up, started a game for the Marlins. Now he's closed one. Really impressive. Skip was asked about what his role could look like. I think it was Danny Rodriguez from Fish on First, asking him, what's Maldonado's role? How do you want to play him? Skip just said pretty plainly, I'm just trying to win a game. And that spot was a good spot for Maldonado. And effectively, what he's saying there is Maldonado will be used where required to win games, which makes total sense. And again, that's the thing I love about Skip in his bullpen management. He's managing. He's actually making decisions, thinking about things. Whereas the old methodology of guys in roles and innings and stuff, I get it. It maybe helps them to understand, their warm-up preparation or any of that kind of stuff. But I feel like having this flexibility, this versatility, making dynamic decisions, is probably overall a good thing. Anyway, Anthony Maldonado, first career big league save, and well done to him. That slider is dangerous, by the way. Again, you look at this game, who would have thought this? First week of May, Roddery Munoz looking like an ace, Anthony Maldonado with a save. You got Dane Myers with a big knock in an 8th inning, tacking on 2 runs. You've got Luis Arias with an RBI, of course, earlier in the game. So, we're only a month, just over a month in, and already things are looking so different to maybe how we expected things to go. So I guess it is what it is on that front. Guys, final ads, then we're going to get out of here pretty quickly. This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks, and it is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Of course, spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. So don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less than, add them to your PrizePicks entry today, and you can get in on the playoff action, of course, and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. So get yourselves onto PrizePicks, download the app, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $100 deposit match. That's PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $100 first match. All right, guys, final segment here with me, Peter Pratt, and it's just a wrap up. We're already 25 minutes in, guys, on a morning. So top of the morning to you. The Marlins have won 2 in a row. But I just wanted to call out that it kind of going back to the Brax close situation. The other thing to mention, Jake Burger. Jake Burger, baby, on his first rehab outing as well. And I must say, when I looked at the lineup yesterday, Brax is in there, Burger's in there. I was like, man, the shrimp are looking pumped. It is looking loaded. And I think the really interesting thing there is all of those guys in that lineup, like Conine's doing his thing at the moment. Troy Johnston has carried on. Victor Mesa Jr. Like, there's guys that are going to get opportunities here for the Marlins. And I think as this season plays out, it's going to be those opportunities and who steps in and who can show what they can show. Again, you've got like a Tristan Gray down there. Like, you look at that lineup and you think, throw that shrimp lineup out there yesterday against the Rockies. And not to try and slander the Rockies, but you throw that lineup out there, like, that lineup's competing. And Brax is competing. Maldonado's effectively the shrimp closer. So, what does it say? Is there maybe more talent in the system than meets the eye? I know we've said the Marlins farm system's absolutely putrid, but you got to look around and you think the shrimp's looking okay. There's guys who can come up and make an impact. And it's probably because some of those guys are like non-roster invitees, etc. Minor league free agent guys. So that kind of pumps up the talent a touch at AAA. But honestly, I'm interested to see how some of these guys perform. I've got my eye specifically on, clearly, Griffin Conine for obvious reasons, historical ones. I've got my eye on Victor Mesa Jr., who I think will, at certain stages in this year, have an opportunity. And I'm very interested to see what he does with it. Big fan of Victor Mesa Jr. And, of course, I feel like I want to see Troy Johnston, just to see him. Because there's been a lot of Troy Johnston talk over the last few years. And I'm interested. There's obviously a situation with Josh Bell where he's a free agent, pending free agent. The Marlins will absolutely look to try and move him for multiple reasons, by the way. They want to move Bell because, well, ideally they can save some money on that, quite a significant portion of money. I think that's probably the problem the Marlins have with trading him. I think expectations-wise for Bell, you would happily just swap him for a no-name prospect so you can save the, I don't know, circa 5-6 million on his deal. So, I think the Marlins would absolutely just give away Bell, but you have to look around now and consider, there's an obvious situation here for Troy Johnston from August and September onwards to make an impact. Anything before that, injury-wise, who knows? We'll wait and see. But the shrimp lineup, things looked interesting. There's some guys down there that you're interested in, for sure. The Marlins are winning some games now. They've won 2 on the spin. They're starting to look like themselves. They're starting to look like the team we expected them to look like. The guys performing maybe aren't the guys we expected to. But nevertheless, this is Marlins baseball. Undermanned offense, starting pitching, looking good, bullpen doing its thing, and some timely hits. With that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. I'm going to be back later on, actually. It's a double episode Thursday. There's going to be a crossover recap, I believe, if the timings work, with the Locked On Rockies host. So we'll look forward to that one. There's a UK-friendly game going today. It's an early one as well. I think it's a 5:10 UK start, so that's super early. But Eddie Cabrera back on the bump for the Fish. It's been an interesting couple of starts for Eddie Cabrera. It's been very Eddie Cabrera thus far. However, I remember one of the main standout starts I've had for Eddie Cabrera was on the road in Coors, where he got called up and he absolutely showed out. Interested to see how Eddie Cabrera does at home against the Rockies this time around. Look forward to seeing you guys later, and let's see if the Marlins can get this sweep. Let's go.